Hey guys, how's it going? This is Obi here with Lion Strong Fitness Global, and I just want to say thank you once again for tuning in for another video, guys. As always, it's always appreciated. You know, people that come on my channel are always trying to get more information in the most practical way, as far as nutrition, training, and just overall just being healthier. Gaining those aesthetics while allowing yourself to not compromise your health at the same time. A lot of times when you consume fitness related content, it's very surface level stuff. But with me, as somebody that coaches thousands of clients worldwide, at people who purchase my programs, both my fusion training programs and my other nutritional systems, and also I coach in my elite performance coaching, which, by the way, guys, and this is something you're interested in and you want to take your training and your game to the next level, but just really in a more simplified fashion to where you can do your training anywhere, anytime, and it's applicable to where you can do no matter what. I think people oftentimes have issues with having the right system in place because obviously the reason why you're here, the desire to learn information is definitely present, but people oftentimes lack the direction, or at least what's going to work for them long term. But anything like this, guys, visit my website. It's lionstrongfitness.net. That link is in the description with all of my stuff. So anyway, guys, to get started, I want to talk about a subject. It's why training less can actually build more muscle. And anyone that's familiar, that follows me on TikTok, on YouTube, and my other social media platforms know that I'm a big proponent of doing a lot of time under tension training. In other words, what does that mean? So people oftentimes when they train, they oftentimes stick to doing 3 sets of 10, right? That's a protocol. 1 second, guys. Sorry, turn off the ice maker. But that's a protocol that people oftentimes utilize because it's in every magazine, every video you watch, 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 10. But what I notice is that after a while, that stops working. People who come to me all the time, those who I consult, those who jump in my live sessions, which, by the way, guys, I go live all the time on TikTok daily. I get lots of questions. People always say, well, like I hit a plateau in my training. And, oftentimes people think that it's diet related, or you guys got to eat more, you got to get more sleep. But what I always say is, just like in business, there's supply and demand. Now, when it comes to continue making progress, when it comes to your body, you have to create that demand. In other words, if you're training not with the proper intensity, if you're not sending, because really, guys, what training all is every time you do a workout, you're basically sending a particular signal and message to your body. Okay, and if that message is not trying to disrupt it and get it away from equilibrium, in other words, your body naturally doesn't want to build muscle. It wants to stay here. Now, it's perfectly capable of building muscle, but that's when the training comes in. You have to do things that the body views as extreme so that way you can keep making progress moving forward. The problem is with most people is they typically do the typical things. They do a lot of zone 2 or steady state cardio. They do their 3 sets of 10 when it comes to their weights. They always say, well, I'm going to do my 30 minutes of cardio, my 30 minutes of weights. Now, the problem with that is number one, you're doing your training for too long. Okay, I believe that your training should be under 30 minutes. So with that said, how do you complete that? Well, your training has to comprise of 3 things. You have to be able to build strength, break down muscle tissue, or stimulate the body to where those signals are being sent to where the body wants to build muscle. Because when it builds muscle, what happens is the metabolism tends to speed up, and that's what's responsible for burning fat and calories at rest. People don't know that. They think training burns calories, when in fact it's actually, they think, sorry guys, they think nutrition and sleep burns calories. Sorry guys. The people think training burns calories and it burns fat, but actually what it does is it conditions the body to speed up the metabolism. But the way it speeds up the metabolism is by building muscle. Okay, so and also while doing that, you have to make sure that your heart rate is pretty elevated, close to or preferably as I always say, 150 beats a minute. And people oftentimes don't do that. People will do a lot of machine training. They'll use barbells and they'll go to the gym. They'll spend hours there and they wonder why nothing's working. But with my fusion training programs, which by the way, guys, on my website, lionsofyourdesign.net, link is in the description. These are all 30-minute time under tension based training systems where there's levels 1 through 7 that I have. And what's cool about it is when you purchase it, you have it immediately on your phone. So no matter if you're in another country, if you're on holiday, vacation, as long as you have access to dumbbells, you can really take advantage of these systems. And when I say time under tension, guys, I don't like to count repetitions. Instead, I like to do things for time. Because what that does, it naturally trains you to develop a more of an athletic mindset to where you're now focused on trying to compete with yourself and outdo the last set or what you've previously done. And you're just going all out versus saying, okay, I got my 10 reps in, that's it. And also it teaches you how to go, to not settle. Anyone will tell you, anyone who does my training programs and does my coaching, whenever they go back to do whatever they used to do or work out with their friends or whatever they did before, it's like it's nothing because your body here hit a new standard. And it goes back to sending those signals. When your body's experienced something that's drastic, like these training systems, there's no going back, but anyway. But guys, I want to just touch on some points. So, muscle growth is driven by quality of stimulus, not spent in the gym. People oftentimes don't understand that when it comes to training, there's an old saying, you can either train hard or train long, but you can't do both. We have a thing in our culture where people tend to believe that the longer they train means it's better because it goes back to that thing I'm against, which is counting the time, counting reps. I did my 30 minutes of this. Guys, whenever I do my consultations, the first question I ask people is, so how long are your workouts for and what do you do? Now, when you hear that question, you're probably thinking, oh, because I just want to learn, and I do. But I asked that question to confirm what I already believed. And what does that mean? That means that when people answer the question, oh, I do 30 minutes of this, or I do, this machine, that exercise, the fact that they can just say verbatim what they're doing to a T as far as reps, that tells me that, well, number one, doesn't work, right? But number two, the fact is that you're not focusing on, getting as much as you can in a finite amount of time. The best answer, which I never get from people, is, I don't know. I just go in there and I try to just kill it and just do as many as I can. If I'm working legs, I'll do these exercises, but I'll do rounds where I just want to do as many as I can. I do it for this time. No one says that because that's not something that people do. And that's how my training systems are, and that's why they work. And also, they don't understand the importance of putting certain exercises together, why it's beneficial to put certain groups together, do certain exercises. That's what happens when you have a good training system, guys. You're able to do all that. But people oftentimes wing it. They just do whatever the next person does, and they wonder why it doesn't work, okay? And we'll talk about here. So I also want to touch on, guys, that doing shorter sessions forces higher focus, intent, and intensity. Now, what that means is when you're training and you're doing a shorter duration workout, what happens is that you naturally know that you don't have as much time to allocate to training, right? You have things to do, you gotta get back to business, whatever you're doing. So because my programs are only under 30 minutes, mentally that there's a cutoff point, there's a finish line. Now, what happens is that because you don't have as much time, there's more intentionality behind every set, every rep, every movement you do. So now you're focused on trying to maximize everything, okay? Versus a guy who's at the gym for 2 hours, he has all the time in the world. So he's just gonna do a couple reps during his set, pull out his phone and play with his phone, okay? Your body's gonna get cold, heart rate's gonna come down. He loses the stimulation that's on the body, especially towards building muscle, which affects what? The metabolism. But with my systems and training under 30 minutes, you're able to really maximize your heart rate, maximize strength, and maximize muscle stimulation or hypertrophy. People wonder why, when I say that you can experience what's called excuse me, you can experience what's called recomposition, which is the idea of burning fat and building muscle at the same time. They think it sounds crazy. It's not. Once you lower the you lengthen the you cut back on the training time. Naturally, things start to scale back as well. Rest periods scale back, but what does scale up is the intensity and the amount of effort you give per set. So, but yeah, guys, I'll touch on one more thing, and I also want to talk about, guys, the fact that doing short sessions actually relieves chronic inflammation and joint stress. People don't talk about that. People when they criticize me about my methods, they don't really understand or break down like I do why these systems are better. They're better because it allows you to go harder, but while going harder, you're maintaining the integrity of your joints. What stops people from training oftentimes is injuries, having setbacks, aches and pains, but they don't realize that when you go to the gym, use the barbell, you jump on that machine, you're not assessing a lot of those imbalances, and people oftentimes take too long in the gym. What happens, guys, when you start to train, or you start your workout, the body releases a hormone naturally, just like how if you're playing basketball, and the moment you have possession of the ball, there's a shot clock, right? And you have 24 seconds to get a shot off before the other team takes possession of the ball. The body's the same way, except when you start your session, there's an internal shot clock in which your body's releasing cortisol, and when it gets to a certain point, right, that's when you're going to start to go backwards. You're either going to burn out, you're going to get injured, or the combination of both. So that's another reason why when you train shorter periods, not only, it's not talk about the mental side. Mentally, you feel better about doing it. You're more excited to do it. And because of the excitement, or even if you're not that excited to do it, you know that it's only going to take this short amount of time. So you're willing to push yourself. But when you're training with the methods that I'm talking about, the time under tension, you're not focusing on training so much for a particular rep, but more for time. Let's just say in my workouts, for example, in programs of mine, I have where you do a minute and a half, 75 seconds, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And when you do stuff like this, the focus is less on momentum, because what causes tendonitis and all these joint issues is people tend to do their movements with momentum, right? If you're trying to get 10 reps, 1, 2, 3, right? 10 reps, right? But if I'm doing it for 2 minutes, what happens is I'm going to experience muscle tissue breakdown, fatigue. And what happens is I'm going to need to eventually go from that heavier weight that I was lifting down to a lighter weight and continue the set. But even though I've decreased the weight, I still, the weight that I'm using now still feels just as challenging. So now all that stress that would have been on your joints because of the length of the set, it's now going to your muscles. And now, let's not talk about the fact that your heart rate's going up, okay? And again, guys, I've done live workouts on my TikTok about this stuff, and I've shown that when you do stuff like this, the workouts usually take under 30 minutes. Like I do this every day, guys. My clients do it, and whenever I get their feedback, they tell me like I know it's only 30 minutes, but I only got to like 24, 23 minutes because I was pooped. And that's a good thing. That means it's working, and that means that it's something you're going to sustain. And having knowledge of that means that moving forward, you can have the confidence knowing that you'll still get the same outcome, and it not take so much time. So guys, I just wanted to touch on that. I can keep going. I wrote down more points, but I wanted to not keep the video so long. We're at 13 minutes, but guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this matter. Again, I'm a big proponent. This is what my Lion Strong Fitness global systems are built around, and this is why they work, and this is why people get great results. And again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, if you're interested in obtaining something that's going to work for you, no matter where you are, no matter if you're in another country, as long as you got some dumbbells and a good attitude and something to drink, man, you can get right to it, guys. So head to my website, lionstrongfitness.net, and go to /fusion if you want to get a fusion program. It's amazing. And guys, if you guys want to contact me, make sure you leave me a message down below in the comments. Also, you can send me an email. All my information is down there. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And guys, I appreciate you guys watching this video. I'm gonna drop another one right after this. And you guys keep training hard, and continue being great, guys. It's your coach, Obi, with Lion Strong Fitness Global, and we're out of here.